We are now deep into the holiday season, so what better time to rank all 6 Silent Night Deadly Night films? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm going to be ranking all the Silent Night Deadly Night movies from worst to best. We got 5 movies and a remake here. Should be interesting. Definitely not the highest quality franchise overall. We got a few highs here, but the lows are pretty damn low here. But before we get into it, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy rankings like this. Make sure to drop your ranking of all the films down in the comment section. We'll have a great discussion, and let's get into it. So for me, easily coming into last place at number 6, I'm going with Silent Night Deadly Night 3, Better Watch Out. Now, the last time I went through this franchise was about 7 or 8 years ago, and this I said was the worst slasher ever made and the worst horror movie I've ever seen. Now, since then, I've probably seen worse horror movies. This probably isn't the worst anymore. It's still one of the worst slashers I've ever seen. It's just incredibly boring. It's so dull. We follow this girl that's blind and psychic, and she forms this psychic connection with Ricky, who is now in a coma, played by Bill Moseley this time. And he's completely wasted, Bill Moseley. I mean, he's practically a mute. The only thing he can say is Laura. And he's basically like Frankenstein or like a zombie going around killing people. The kills are all lame, all off screen. Sometimes we get to see the aftermath, but nothing special in the effects department. Pretty bad there. And yeah, this movie just follows our main girl Laura and her brother. They head on to Granny's house while Ricky is pursuing them, and he ends up ahead of them. He ends up at Granny's house first, and yeah, it's just very boring. There's nothing worse than a boring movie. There's other movies on this list that are certainly probably more bonkers and much worse in some aspects, but this one, it just bores me to death. I feel like going to sleep every time I put this on. And Ricky just looks kind of stupid. He has like his brain sticking out like a bowl on top of his head. It's just very dumb. And the way he's defeated is one of the lamest ways to defeat a villain I've ever seen. Laura, the blind girl, she's laying there on the ground with this pointy stick while Ricky kind of just falls on the stick and dies. So bad. Pretty bad movie overall, and the way they try to connect this with parts 1 and 2 is just ridiculous. It's stupid. Like I said, this Laura girl has like a psychic connection with the killer, and she's seeing flashbacks from the first movie, from Billy, and this franchise has a problem with flashbacks. But overall, this is just a very very bad movie. Coming up next at number 5, I'm going with Silent Night Deadly Night 2. Now, I know a lot of people love this movie for being so bad it's good type of way. I can see you get entertainment out of it in that way, but just looking at this through a critic's eyes, there's no way you're going to say that this is a good movie. It's terrible. For one thing, we got Eric Freeman, I think that's the actor's name, who plays Ricky in this one, and some of the worst acting I've ever seen. He's terrible. His line deliveries are incredibly cheesy. Terrible acting here, but that kind of goes along with the schlock, right? With the so bad it's good aspect. But yeah, the first half of this movie, literally 40 some minutes, is just a recap of the first movie. Ricky's just telling the story of what happened in part 1, and he's explaining and giving details of these scenes. Like, I don't know how he's doing it, because it wasn't even him in the first movie, it was his brother Billy. But he claims that Billy told him everything that happened. So, but yeah, it's just very very hard to watch, especially after watching the first film. Never watch these back to back. I can see this one be a little bit better if you just watch it on its own because of all the flashback scenes. It just feels so repetitive. But once we get going, this becomes its own film. In the second half, it's much more entertaining. When Ricky goes on his killing spree, it is just so funny. It's not scary at all or even horrific. or even feel like grimy or, dirty like the first movie. It's nothing like that. It's just so silly and funny that you do get some entertainment value out of it. From when Ricky starts explaining with him and his girlfriend that he as a girl that he meets, and just the whole journey he goes on, whether he's killing the guy after the movie theater to eventually killing her. He gets some cool kills in here. I mean, he kills a guy with an umbrella and opens it up after it goes through him. Looks really silly but cool at the same time. But yeah, the big highlight here is Garbage Day. When he kills the guy taking out the garbage, he's like, Garbage Day. And it's just the facial expressions and the line delivery. It's just so bonkers. It's so bad, but it's good. It's entertaining. That's why it's good. And I do like the whole ending, how he goes after Mother Superior at the end, and she's all kind of deformed in that from a stroke. Pretty cool ending, but yeah, this movie is incredibly cheesy. It's bad. There's no saying that this is a good movie in any way, especially when half of your movie is just filler, this recap of the first. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. There's literally a time in the movie where he's giving a flashback scene. He's telling a story of something that happened to his brother, and then his brother has a flashback within the flashback. It's almost like Inception. It's just so goddamn bad. But yeah, there is some fun to be had in this movie if you're there to poke fun at it. Like I said, some interesting kills, as cheesy as they are. But yeah, definitely a bad movie. There's no defending it. But I can have some enjoyment out of laughing at it. Coming up next at number 4, I'm going with Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Initiation. Now this is a big step up. Still not a good movie, but a huge step up from the last two movies I talked about. This one feels actually competent in its storytelling and everything. But it really has nothing to do with Christmas. Out of all these films, this definitely feels like the odd one out because, yeah, it takes place during the holiday season. We get a few moments where people are talking around a Christmas tree and stuff, but the plot has nothing to do with Christmas. It's about a girl, a journalist, kind of investigating into this weird witches coven or whatever they are. This cult of empowering women and trying to figure out what's going on with them, and she kind of gets sucked into this rabbit hole with them and ends up on a really bizarre journey. A very strange, very bizarre film that includes these witches doing these rituals. There's a lot of bugs in here, some gross imagery. We get some really cool body horror with our main character like morphing together at different scenes and that, like her legs going together, and like weird bug creatures going inside people, and it's very gross and gooey in that element, in that side of the story. But the way the story's told, it's a bit confusing. There's things that aren't really explained very well, especially with the ritual and what they're doing with this main lead. But it kind of makes it feel like a fever dream after you watch it. You're like, what did I just watch? But it is entertaining. We get Clint Howard in here, who's always great in these schlocky B horror movies. And yeah, he's like kind of like the cult's henchman. Like they use him for their dirty work, and he's also part of this ritual, which gets very erotic in very weird ways, kind of sleazy. But yeah, just a very weird film. Spontaneous combustion was like a big talk in the news at the time, and they kind of like insert that in here a little bit as well, which I thought was interesting for the year. What this came out in 1990, I believe. But yeah, our main girl Kim, I like the character and everything, but the actor playing her, she's gives some pretty cheesy lines as well. She's not the best actress. Just her delivery just comes off as odd most times. But yeah, a weird movie that's entertaining, not one I would watch all the time, but I think it's good enough. But just very odd to be in this franchise because, like I said, it has virtually nothing to do with Christmas. Up next at number 3, I'm going with Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker. This one is tight with part 4 on which one I like better. They both have their moments. This one's pretty cool. We got a bunch of like killer toys that yeah, these people open them up and they will move around and stuff and kill you, almost like Puppet Master style a little bit. I thought that was pretty cool. I always like movies with killer toys or dolls. And funny enough, the guy who owns the toy store is called Joe Petto. Um, like Pinocchio. And his son, which you find out is one of his creations, a toy, he is Pino. So yeah, if you can put those puzzle pieces together, that's pretty funny. But funny enough, Petto is played by Mickey Rooney, which oddly enough, when the first movie came out, he was hardcore against it. He was boycotting it, trying to get that movie pulled from theaters and just have it be non-existent basically. And by part 5, he was part of the franchise, funny enough. And we also get characters Kim from part 4 and Ricky, Clint Howard, back in this one. They have the same names as before. I'm not sure if they're still playing the same characters. I think they're supposed to be, but there's really no connection to the last movie aside from that, so that's a little weird. I always found that kind of odd. But yeah, one moment that always stood out for me was a scene where a babysitter and her boyfriend is getting it on in a bed, and these toys all come in to take them out, and I thought that was really fun. Like, you get this toy hand going on the guy's back, and he thinks it's the girl. One of those funny moments, but yeah, it gets pretty brutal. You get this toy with these blades coming out and chopping up the guy, and you got this like chomping toy that comes towards the girl's private parts, which is, it's just really bonkers, but a whole lot of fun. Pretty bloody scene there. But yeah, those are the entertaining moments. The ending is kind of gets really wacky with Pino and the whole reveal behind his motives and stuff, and how he goes after the mother character of the son and is like, mommy, mommy, while he's like humping her. It's just so weird and bizarre that I don't know. I don't even know what to think of it. But yeah, it does feel very Christmassy, this movie, with all the toys and the presents. So that's a bonus. I do like how the story feeds you with mystery. Like, we get this random guy showing up and you think he's involved with all the killings and that going on, but he's really the father of the boy and he's just coming back from the army, like different things like that. And what's going on with Joe Petto and Pino, like, once we start figuring out what everybody's intentions are, it makes for a pretty good story. Again, not a great movie, but much better than the bottom films I have on this list. Reaching my top 2 in this ranking, I'm going with Silent Night, the remake or the reboot. It's really like a soft reboot. There's not a whole lot that connects it to the original. I mean, we get a killer Santa Claus, a few tribute scenes like when they kill the girl in the antlers, and like we get a callback to part 2 with Garbage Day. I thought that was a whole lot of fun, but there's very little that connects this to the original. It's much like the Wrong Turn reboot that we got a few years ago, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't like a copy shot for shot remake, especially when the first one is already a decent movie. So I do appreciate what they've done with this one. This one's pretty mean spirited. The killer Santa is no joke. He's not messing around. He's kind of ruthless. It's kind of like a whodunit slasher. We're not really sure who's doing the killings, who the Santa killer is. And we kind of build upon that mystery throughout, trying to figure out, which is really hard during a Santa Claus parade and all this happening on Christmas Eve. I really like the look of the killer Santa too in this. He has like the plastic mask on that's kind of see-through, and he usually has an axe. Sometimes he has a flamethrower though, which is a really iconic weapon, really cool, kind of makes this one stand out a little bit more. I really like our main cop, Aubrey. She's a really likable character, played by Jamie King, and Malcolm McDowell is the sheriff in here, and he's a little cocky, a little overconfident, and his dialogue doesn't exactly add up with what a sheriff would say in real life. But with Malcolm McDowell's charm as an actor, it kind of makes it all right. You kind of learn to like the character throughout the film. But yeah, I like those two, but most of the other characters in here are so despicable, so unlikable and vile that you're okay with them getting killed off. You're kind of rooting for the Santa half the time in this film. And the kills are pretty brutal. I mean, we get like a whole, I think it's a wood chipper type kill. Those are always great. We get axe kills, we get flamethrower kills, A good mixture in here. And I also love the cinematography. There's a whole scene where the killer is at the police station and the lights go off and we get the emergency lights coming on and we get a lot of reds and greens, which, add to the whole Christmas holiday feel to the film. And it just looks really badass when he's going down the halls with his axe, with the lighting. It looks great. And I do like the whole backstory of the killer. I just wish that it would have had a stronger connection with her characters. Although it does have a connection, I just feel like it wasn't a big shocking reveal or twist. Not saying I could guess who the killer was, but I just wish it was more of like a what the fuck moment, when we find out who the killer is, because that's the fun of these who done it slasher type movies. You're always trying to figure out who it is, because there is red herrings in here. There's people that it could be, but the way it plays out, it's just not all that shocking. I wish it would have had a bigger impact on the final act. But overall, this is a pretty well made slasher film. It gives you everything you want from a holiday slasher. It's violent, it's gruesome, it got a cool killer, a great lead for our final girl. It checks all the boxes. It just kind of lacks a bit in like the themes and the social commentary department. It's a little less psychological than the original. We don't get real deep character moments. Our main lead does have a bit of a tragic past, an incident that happened to her in the past that we learn about throughout the film, but nothing major like the first film where we'll get into it, but where this kid, went through a lot of things which caused him to become a killer Santa. We don't get a whole lot of that, but overall, a really good slasher. But for me, coming in the first place, I gotta give it to the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. This film was extremely controversial when it came out. You had people trying to get it banned, get it removed, but the power of cinema, it will live on forever because we're still watching this film to this day, which is great. And you can see why it was controversial. I mean, this is a slasher movie, but I feel like most of the horror comes from mixing all the sleaziness with religion and Christmas, and being a slasher on top of that. All of that together just makes the movie feel dirty and just feels wrong. We do get a good mixture of kills in here, though, very festive kills. Like using Christmas lights to strangulate somebody. But the big one for me is, of course, the antlers kill. Linnea Quigley gets impaled on a set of antlers on the wall while she's topless. It's very iconic. Definitely the standout kill in this movie and possibly the entire franchise. And Linnea Quigley is a horror icon. It's always cool to see her in a slasher, in a horror movie in general. And Billy is just such an interesting character because, he's basically gets pushed to become what he feared the most. He ends up becoming a killer Santa Claus over time, and he had such a tragic past when he was a child. Childhood trauma at an all-time high. He witnessed his parents being murdered by a guy dressed up as Santa Claus, and he also sexually assaulted his mother, and he's seen the whole thing. He survived it, so he has that in the back of his mind. On top of it, he gets sent to an orphanage where he gets abused by the head Mother Superior, the one running this orphanage. It's a Catholic orphanage run by nuns. She is such a despicable character, and she punishes Billy nonstop, unrightfully so too. And Mother Superior definitely makes my list for one of the most despicable villains of all time. She's up there with Nurse Ratched, that crazy religious girl on The Mist. I'm gonna have to do a top 10 most hated villains list one of these days, or most hated characters. She would definitely make the list because she is not a good nun. And everything Billy's been through over the years, and then he gets a job and they force him to dress up as Santa, that just really puts him over the edge. He just loses his mental state. He just goes on a killing rampage, And this is really a mixture of Mother Superior telling them that he's naughty all the time and that he deserved to be punished, on top of the whole idea of Santa, how he doesn't give presents to the naughty kids, he gives them coal, he punishes. So a mixture of Mother Superior and the idea of Santa comes together, on top of his parents being murdered by someone dressed as Santa. All this combined turns him into a killer Santa Claus himself. And I think that's so interesting, and how he's like naughty, whether he sees a sexual act, whether he sees, someone doing something wrong, acting a fool, bullying, he is going to punish them. I like one scene where he punishes this bully coming down who steals a kid's sled, and he ends up decapitating him. Really cool kill there too. But yeah, it just makes for a really interesting character in Billy. I mean, it can get a bit cheesy at times, the way he's like naughty. This is the way he says it and goes after his killings. It can be a little bit of that 80s cheese, but of course, it's a product of its time. And I do like that he's not just killing everybody. Like, there's a point where he runs into a kid. I think it's like, Santa? And he's like, have you been naughty? And she's like, no. And, he ends up giving her like a box cutter or whatever for a present, because that's what he has on him. But it just goes to show he's only out there to take out the naughty. And his full final mission is to take out Mother Superior. I love the musical score to this film. It really intensifies the creepiness of all the scenes, the way the keys and pianos played. Really suits the film very well. It has a lot of holiday spirit, whether we're talking about the decorations and the themes and the kills and Santa and everything. This makes for a perfect watch around the holiday season to mix it up, if you're into the horror. The only little nitpick I have with this is the cops being so incompetent and so stupid. Like, there's a scene where they're obviously on the lookout for a killer Santa, and there's Santas all over the place, but them running in without even asking questions into a house when a father's just trying to surprise their daughter dressed as Santa, or the fact that they kill a guy dressed as Santa who's on his way to the orphanage and he was deaf so he couldn't hear them yelling. But I mean, leave it to the cops to shoot first and ask questions later. It's definitely not a film I watch every holiday season, but I do return to it from time to time. I do get some enjoyment out of it, and out of this ranking, it easily comes in the first place. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 6 Silent Night, Deadly Night films. Hope you enjoyed it. I think I've heard that there's another remake of the original film going to be coming out sometime, I don't know, within the next year or two, so that's interesting. I'll keep an eye out for that one. You can follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram. Links to those are always in the description of this video. And don't forget to drop how you rank this franchise down in the comment section. We'll have a great discussion. Hope you guys have a good holiday season. Stay safe, and until next time, guys, thanks for watching.